name is Sinead Farley.
My name is Kaya McCullough.
I'm Manashim. I grew up in Hawaii and I started playing soccer when I was 5. I knew I wanted to play professionally very early on. Let's see, after college, so I wasn't drafted. I entered the draft and I wasn't drafted, and it was the first year of the professional league, the new league, the NWSL. I was thinking I would just, go back to school, a graduate program. And then Brandy Chastain, actually, she was my assistant coach, and she pulled me aside and was like, you have to go try out for a team. I just looked at the rosters and I looked at the places where the teams were, and I kind of picked out Portland and thought that was a good place to live, and we'll see. So I flew up there, no expectations, and ended up making the team.
Both my parents were student athletes at UCLA. I was kind of raised in a household with really powerful athletes, and I was always drawn to sports. My mom was a gymnast. I started doing gymnastics when I was like 5. I was really bad at it. I immediately went into soccer and I absolutely fell in love. I was probably 12 or 13 when I realized that I could go to college for this and get my school paid for with it, and that in college I realized I could probably play pro too. So it was just a really awesome evolution. I feel like I really grew up with the game.
I started playing soccer when I was 5. Both of my parents were athletes, good athletes. I just absolutely fell in love with it. Soccer was always just something that I loved, and I played because I loved it and I felt free. I just followed that passion and that love, and there wasn't like a set league in place for women at that time, other than the year before that I went into the draft. So I don't know, it wasn't like a solid dream I had to play pro until it kind of happened. I just did it because I loved it.
The Washington Post released findings on investigations into the treatment of players on the Washington Spirit.
Earlier, the North Carolina Courage team fired its head coach, Paul Riley. Two former players.
Women's Soccer League just canceled all of its games this weekend.
An environment that left players terrified.
Amid allegations of abuse, including sexual abuse of players by former coaches.
The world of women's professional soccer is facing a reckoning right now.
So I came forward in a Washington Post piece written by Molly Hensley Clancy about the verbal and emotional abuse that I suffered under the hands of my head coach while I was at the Washington Spirit playing professional soccer in 2020.
An old teammate of mine, Manashim, and I came forward because we both shared similar stories. We had sexual allegations against an old coach that we both played for.
So it was a story from 6 years ago, and something that I had kind of worked through on my own. And so as much as I wanted to talk about it publicly because I thought it could be impactful, and I was worried about the fact that he was still in the league, I didn't feel like I could do it on my own. I wasn't confident that the league was ready for it. I was worried about just my future, and when it first happened, I didn't feel comfortable speaking publicly about it because I thought it would ruin my career, quite frankly.
I wasn't gonna go on the record at all. I wasn't gonna tell my story. She was the one who contacted me about possibly just talking, and I was like, yeah, I'll get on the phone with you, I'll talk. Just because I had done a story with Molly the year prior. Once I got on the phone with Molly, I kind of word vomited, and everything came out, and it was the first time that I had really told anybody besides my family. From there, the story just kind of grew naturally, and it really became something bigger than me and bigger than the club. Again, I wasn't gonna go on the record at first, but after a few discussions, Molly was like, hey, this will be a lot more credible if somebody puts their name on it, and I talked to my therapist about it, I talked to my family about it, and I just sort of realized I didn't want anybody else to go through what I did. So if that meant putting my name on something and, potentially sacrificing a career in the sport that I had played for a long time, then that was what needed to happen.
So we had a team of three attorneys, and we've been working with them for over a year. Molly Levinson, who's worked a lot on the equal pay lawsuits. We together picked Meg. So we were like, you know, there are a lot of factors that go into it when you think about telling your story, especially something so personal. But we had a relationship with Meg Linehan. So we read some of her stuff, and Sinead and I mostly were like, we don't feel comfortable going with anyone else. And we talked for a very long time. It was a lot more than just a quick interview. It was really laying the whole foundation of how this came to be. She, I think, did an incredible job, and I can't imagine what this story would have been like if anyone else wrote it.
I was terrified, and I honestly didn't want to be hounded with questions. I didn't want to be hounded with, you know, being gaslighted for my experience.
You know, the part of me that went through that trauma that for so long thought it was my fault, I was trying to prepare myself for the backlash that I was possibly going to receive because it felt really scary to me. It was just really hard mentally and emotionally for me personally to feel so exposed.
The thought of having to heal through something that traumatic publicly was a really terrifying prospect for me, but again, it kind of was that decision, like, if I don't speak out now, who will?
The few hours leading up to when the Athletic article came out, I was terrified. I had no idea what the response would be.
I have like chills in my body thinking about it again. I was just so blown away. It felt so good to feel so seen and supported.
The reaction to my story and to other people's stories has been phenomenal, and I felt honestly an overwhelming wave of support. I think people were surprised, and people were dealing with a lot of their own guilt in not having done anything or not having noticed.
Having the players respond the way they did, it made it very real. It just highlighted how big of an issue this is.
Every person that's been in this league knows at some level what that felt like and has felt disempowered.
And that's painful and sad. And also, we knew that. So the fact that we're in this reckoning and it's all coming to light, I'm grateful that that's been the response.
There's something about coming together with other people, and this is what I loved so much about being on a team, and just like taking your power back and speaking up and saying this isn't how it's going to happen anymore, you know. And I think that it really reignited a passion inside of me for this stuff because I just really care about that and saw that I'm not alone.
I just wanted to play soccer. I didn't want all of this other stuff. We don't feel like we have a choice. I didn't feel like I had a choice but to continue playing for Paul and being silent.
And life is hard enough, and when we don't have people, especially people in power that we look up to that are supporting us and making us feel safe, it's 1,000 times harder to just do what we love.
For me, like I look back at when I was playing during this time and I'm just, it's so painful. Like I can see it in my play, and I could, just watching myself on film, I can take myself back to that time. And I was withdrawn. I felt like I didn't want to be seen. And when you're playing soccer in front of a stadium of 16,000 people and you don't want to be seen because you're just ashamed of who you are, because you're not secure in your being, like that's gonna ruin your career.
It's so unfair to these young girls, these young people who have to overcome that as well, just to pursue their dreams, just to do something that they love. I think it's great that there was some immediate action taken. Do I think that there's way more to be done? Yes. If you're gonna make systemic change, you need to get to the root cause, and basically what was done was kind of ripping off the Band-Aid. I think the more players that speak out is really important, and it's unfortunate that that has to happen, but it's almost like people don't take things as seriously unless there's more people, and I hate that that's the case, but I think the more people that speak out, the more people that feel empowered to speak out and share their story will be really helpful, but there definitely needs to be 100% more accountability for anyone that knew about the abuse and let it continue.
When you think of soccer in that way as a reflection of where we are in society, Black voices have always been routinely silenced. In soccer, you see the very same dynamic. I think it's really important to elevate Black voices because often they are, and we are, at the bottom of society and at the bottom of sport. I think making sure that we elevate them will bring everybody else up. When you bring up the bottom of this power structure, everybody else will also rise. And so I think it's important to just continue to elevate voices and make sure that they don't go unheard, and make sure that they are not only uplifted but celebrated. I feel like I'm at a place now where I can move on from this, and it's the journey and the healing and the growth that I never knew I needed. And I wonder what would have happened if I didn't talk about it, because I might not be in the same place. It's weird because as soon as I opened up about this, so many things in my life started falling into place for me, whether that's a new career, or law school, or anything like that. So I think it really kind of opened Pandora's box for me and accelerated my journey towards my next step. It's poetic. It's really poetic. I couldn't have written a better story if I tried.
I'm optimistic. Like, I'm not here like suffering because this came out. There's no part of me that regretted it. In every moment I've been able to see the light.
I am now working for a wonderful nonprofit called Common Goal, helping run their anti-racist project. And then I just got accepted into a few law schools, so I'll be pursuing that next summer, starting in August. I don't know where I'm going yet, so do not ask me. I'm a little too ambitious with my goals right now. So I have a semester left of law school, and then hopefully pass the bar. So there are two things that I'm very passionate about. One is this work, the Me Too movement, addressing this systemic issue, because it's ongoing and it's gonna be our probably life's work. You know, it's gonna take a long time, and I'm committed to that, and I know more difficult conversations are gonna happen, and I wanna go through that. And I'm interested in transforming the criminal justice system, particularly in Hawaii, because I think there are different ways to do this work and have these conversations. I want to do things a different way.
I'm excited for my life from here on out. I've let go of so much weight, and I've healed so much from a lot of things that I needed healing from, and it was so heavy to carry so much trauma in my body and feel like I had to go through it alone for so many years. I've just gained so much more confidence and experience, and I'm so much more myself. I want to serve the world and impact the world in so many ways, and I think just showing up as myself will do that.
I always say this, and I always reflect on this, that I wanted to be somebody that I wish I had in my corner. And, you know, if that meant sacrificing the sport, so be it. If that meant continuing to work in the sport, but now in a different capacity, so be it. If that means doing interviews, writing articles, op-eds, whatever that may be, then that's what I'll do, because I think that the little girls and children who come after me deserve a lot better than I had and that a lot of other people had.